What is going on, guys? It is Adam, a.k.a. Marf, and this is Marfoogle News. Today, we have a ton for you, so stick around. We'll be right back with all of the current events going on right now. Nothing in this show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. All right, let us get into it. Remember, you can go to marfooglenews.com to sign up for notifications and our email list. All right, what is happening? What's up, guys? It's Adam, a.k.a. Marf, and this is Marfoogle News. Today, we have a ton to go over in a short amount of time, so I do want to remind you, if you are new or you are here for your first time, you can always go over to marfooglenews.com and find a full bibliography of every single article, tweet, video, picture, document that we show you here today. Now, when you go over to marfooglenews.com, you'll notice something, that it is all done by thumbnail. When you go to World Underwater, this is not a movie. This is real life. Once you click on that, it will bring you to every single article, tweet, video, picture, document, plus more. In fact, once you get to a yellow bar, there is an overflow section. That is all of the stuff that we collected that could not fit into the time period for the show. Now, today is Monday, so we're going to get through this pretty quickly. Normally on Mondays, we've been doing earlier shows. But again, this is going to be a shorter show, so this, I hope, gets shared out to the masses. And by the masses, I mean your friends at work and your family and people that need to be awoke, but not woke. All right, let's bring in my co/internet brother, Dex James. What's going on, man? And how are you doing?
Well, hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I am doing just fine.
So thank you, by the way, for the people that stopped by last show. It looks like at least one person did a super thanks on the last show. Malachi's Corner says, thanks, love your show. Thank you, Malachi Corner. I appreciate that. And then Tosha also did a super thanks on the last show. Thanks, much love, Foogle family. And then A. Monet, thank you again for your support on the show before that. Before we get into it, I do want to remind folks, I'll probably give you guys kind of a reminder later on when we get into the more stressful stuff, but there's a lot of stuff going on, and if you don't like scary movies, then when I give you that warning, then don't watch scary movies. And it kind of goes into today's show this is not a movie, this is real life, and unfortunately a lot of these things are going on all at the same time. Most of your friends and family probably think you're nuts. Or that you're crazy for being prepper-minded or for keeping track of this stuff. Unfortunately, anybody that actually does follow this stuff closely instead of, purely watches TV, purely, sinks themselves into Netflix or TikTok. Now, again, I know many, spend some time on TikTok or some time on Facebook or on other social media platforms, and all of us waste a tiny bit of time here and there. But most of you are pretty closely following everything that's going on in the world. And I have to say, if you are closely following what is going on with our governments, what is going on with the world leaders, and what is happening right now, I think it's almost insane to think that nothing is going on right now. And there are people that are like that. I know it seems crazy from our side to think that people are that far off to think that everything is normal again, but that's my opinion. What's yours? Let me know in the comments below. Also, make sure to thank your mods. Your mods are going to do an awesome job keeping it peaceful down there. Thank you, everybody that has made it into chat. Meet some like-minded people. World's first flying bike that can reach speeds of 62 miles per hour and fly for 40 minutes to make a U.S. debut. It says that the flying bike that travels 62 miles per hour for up to 40 minutes and costs $777,000 makes U.S. debut. Now, remember, that price is something because it is new. I have already told you I can see the setup for this is as far as what's funny is you can see this if you were a hobbyist drone person, if you had a DJI drone of any kind or any kind of drone, if you do, of course, the virtual headset drones or any of that, you would have noticed a few years ago that they're blocking out an airspace in between where the planes go and where the drones were. And that space, of course, has been kind of blocked out for these new delivery drone systems and things like that. But in the future, and this sounds crazy because especially since, the 60s, they've been talking about, in the future, they'll have flying cars. Now the technology has actually caught up with that. And a flying bike like this, which, again, it's more of a hover bike, this is based on drone technology. When you look at this, it looks like a giant drone. And when the battery technology meets up with this, this is not going to be $777,000. I bet you most of that is the battery technology and the motors and everything that is now in there. All of that has gotten cheaper. Drones have gotten cheaper. In fact, one thing that those fake drone ads had right is at one point, the simplest drone like this was tens of thousands of dollars, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars when they first designed them. But then the price just kept coming down. It's just like computers have come down to the space, and any kind of electronic that has just virtually become, completely cheap. I mean, you're talking about you can buy a Blu-ray player for, $10, $15 now new. That's insane to me, especially when Blu-ray came out and there were, thousands of dollars. Same with DVD, and then same before that. You had VHS players that were super expensive when they first came out, and the technology just keeps getting crazier. Now we are to the point where people will be flying around. So Dex, this is an all-electric model, which again, almost everything is going to be electric in the future. This, my prediction is in the next 10 years, you will see people getting to work by flying bike. And I know there's about to be a lot of people that disagree with that, but this, and 10 years is actually kind of modest. They say that this is going to happen in the next 3 or 4 years. As far as the FAA blocking out this space for delivery drones and a whole nother way to get to and from work. What people are not also thinking about is that most of these will not be controlled by the driver. These will be automatic drones that will basically you'll put in Google where you want to go, and then it will take you there. You're not going to be in control. These will be like these air taxis that you'll take and rent. What do you think, Dex?
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to see a lot of the hover taxis and stuff like that are going to use this same technology. Maybe one or two passengers, probably not. You're flying it yourself. Like you said, they're autonomous. They're going from point A to point B. The other thing I think about in this, aside from, the Star Wars geek that comes out and looks at the hover bike, right? But, thinking about other uses that are more practical and like law enforcement or military using things like this to, move a human quickly, because they can mount and dismount and they can do whatever. So, sort of like the notion of a bike or a horse, right? So I'm just envisioning like the day that the popo's driving down the street, but they're hovering down the street and they can quickly jump over the exits and go under the bridge and go wherever they need to go to get you in the car, right?
Well, I'm going to make a prediction how New York have... Actually, Seattle has them too, but New York has horse cops, and in the big squares or in some of the main touristy areas, they've got cops on horses. And I believe that New York will be probably one of the first places that test this out, and you will see cops flying on these things around some of the bigger squares. Much before that, Dubai is going to have these. Dubai has pushed on having this kind of technology and these kind of things already, and they'll have it first. But where I believe Dex is right, where the police will be on these things. So you'll see somebody mount and dismount one of these things and even possibly have grills on the front where they could tackle somebody with it. It's pretty freaky to think of. And these are relatively safe. I mean, think about the little drones they have now that your kids can get that can bounce around inside of a house. They can have the blades actually, pretty much completely protected and still fly around like this. So this is nuts. But one of the points is that law enforcement and agencies, they could be floating above you silently and you'll never even know it. And then Queen Elizabeth II laid to rest with elaborate final farewell. I did not personally watch it. I've seen some of the highlights because I have to follow a lot of this stuff. But again, I thought it was pretty sickening that everybody was focused on this while Puerto Rico is basically being washed away. And there are disasters all over the world. Taiwan just had a horrible earthquake. And, of course, now Mexico. It said that Queen Elizabeth II's elaborate final farewell got underway early Monday as Britain and the world laid the beloved and longest reigning monarch to rest. The meticulously funeral events for the late 96-year-old monarch began early when the doors of Westminster Hall finally closed to the public after hundreds of thousands of mourners had filed past her coffin to pay their respects since September 14th. More than 2,000 official guests, including President JB and other world leaders, were expected to gather inside London's Westminster Abbey for the state funeral service, which was set to begin at 11 a.m. It says dignitaries and official guests started arriving at the Abbey in the hours before the service began, including Kate Middleton's parents, Michael and Carol, Princess Diana's brother Charles, Spencer, and Queen Consort Camilla Parker, Bell's children. It says as guests arrived, a bell rang out at Westminster Abbey, which will chime once a minute for 96 minutes to honor each year of Elizabeth's life. It says, meanwhile, a procession viewing areas along the streets of London had already filled up by 9 a.m. as thousands turned up to pay their respects. It's funny as you say, thousands showed up, and then they have a picture of like 8 people. But this is, of course, a different part of it. Look at those buildings, though. This is one reason I want to visit. Visit over there is because of the architecture and the insane buildings that are there. That is just absolutely gorgeous. And then, of course, the funeral was quite an event. I'm surprised I haven't seen people say, that some of the more powerful people handed off envelopes to each other or something, or all of them got handed an envelope. But who knows? In the coming days, we might hear that. Dex, go ahead.
Did you hear the administration, or did y'all hear that our current administration was sitting behind, I think it was Poland. He was like in the 14th row. Plenty of people in front. It's kind of interesting. The placement of lots of people there were kind of interesting.
Well, I'm sure they get to chat and talk and probably get some privacy. They might even be able to have a informal meeting.
I think even Canada was sitting closer to the front than we were.
Yeah, well, I hope Kim did Kim Jong-un make it? Because he was invited.
I don't think so.
Vlad was not invited. But that would be pretty funny if they had an empty seat in front of JB that was Kim Jong-un. That would be pretty bad. And then after 70 years on the throne, Queen Elizabeth II died last week and has been succeeded by her eldest son, King Charles III. The Queen's death has been met, unsurprisingly, with an outpouring of grief. The monarch was beloved by millions in Britain and beyond. But whatever your feelings toward Elizabeth, it's clear that the institution of the British monarchy is far from benevolent. It says there have been many important pieces on the monarch's global legacy of colonialism. The ascension of Britain's new king has also presented a very good opportunity to talk about the monarchy's socioeconomic influence and impact. It says the ascension of Britain's new king is a very good opportunity, of course, to talk about Today, the socioeconomic instability in Britain is inescapable. The new Prime Minister, Liz Truss, was in her post for just 3 days before the Queen's death, but she is facing down a growing crisis as energy bills soar. And, of course, food bank use has doubled over the past decade, and the economic effects of Brexit are still being felt. Meanwhile, the exact worth of the British monarchy is very difficult to calculate. The Sunday Times Rich List calculated that the Queen's personal net worth as £370 million, more than $420 million. Well, the author and royal expert David McClure estimated it at about £400 million, and other estimates are closer to $1 billion. Brand Finance, a leading consultancy firm in brand valuation, estimates that the capital value of the monarchy is £67.5 billion. Now, Dex, so I also heard that even Prince William, I believe, Charles passed down something that was worth like $1 billion, or the properties or the stuff that even William inherited was worth like close to $1 billion. Isn't that, does that sound right? Go ahead. Oh.
Sorry, technical glitch there.
Okay.
This article definitely covers a wide range of what they think the value is, and I think they're probably even not accurate when they talk about 77 billion. I think it's probably much more than that, and that's not necessarily in cash. They're talking, capital value, everything that they can do, what they have, all of the other assets and stuff like that. So yeah, this music, I sort of laughed when I heard 370 million or 420 million, I guess I should say, in US dollars. That was just like, that's not what she's worth. They're worth so much more. And I know a lot of people talk about, how elite the monarchy is, and, they've been in power for, ever and passed it all down. So there's a ton of wealth there. And never mind the fact that the taxpayers pay them about close to 100 million US a year just to operate, and that's only a fraction of what their costs are, and they probably make a lot more than that off of everything.
Yeah, and they don't have to pay for anything. That 100 million covers like their staff and everybody to rub their feet and do whatever, but you have to think about their family that has passed down that money over years and years. Back when they did hold actual ruling power, that has been passed down from generation to generation to generation. And think about how much pull they have in the world. Now, do they get paid like ex-presidents do? If they go and speak somewhere, do people pay them a ton of money to even show up? Is that something that happens, or is that considered not okay? Do you know?
I don't know, but I do know that they do have a financial engine. So for example, they get paid for everybody that goes through the door to take a tour, right? They get paid for lots of different things. And I don't know that they get paid, but the estate gets paid. And of course they get 100 million a year off of the taxpayers plus, and that's again, only a fraction of their costs. So obviously they're making money in other ways, to pay for their overall operations, but they're not losing money by any means. So.
Somebody, what was that? Somebody Hardy, or I missed their name. Somebody said, think in the trillions of dollars. They own Sir Smarty. They own the whole UK, is what Sir Smarty said. Well, and think about the property that they either inherited, the property that they were able to purchase or buy as the family. Anytime something came up, I'm sure they're not stupid. They had if property was open, especially older property that was in the crazier areas, I'm sure they own it. Let's see here. CB3, their charities, they own the Commonwealth, says RDL. Don the Scribe. Let's see here. Live with him. Tell me a room is ready, and which he has been working on. I know. Wouldn't it be insane I don't think I would even. I think that most of them don't even like being that pampered, and they have to go by all these rules. If you see William and all of these, they whine like they're like they've been mistreated or something. These people have just absolute power, absolute respect. They have cultural wealth as well. They're not only physically rich, but they're culturally rich as well. In fact, I'll have to share this piece that I saw on how social media and cultural wealth has essentially replaced economic wealth, as far as how people are doing these kind of status competitions online, and it's starting to affect the real world. Powerful quake shakes Mexico on the anniversary of devastating temblors. It says that a powerful earthquake struck near the coast of western Mexico on Monday on the anniversary of 2 devastating temblors, shaking buildings and sending residents of Mexico City scurrying into the streets for safety. Shortly after 1 p.m. local time, the quake registered at a 7.6 magnitude by the U.S. Geological Survey, hit near the coast on the border region of the states of Michoacan and Colima at a depth of around 15 kilometers, which is relatively shallow. It said Mexico City Mayor Claudia Sheinbaum said that there were no immediate reports of damage in the capital after the tremors, which rumbled through Mexico on the same day as major quakes hit the country in 1985 and in 2017. Sorry, but if now that's 3 times is kind of like, what? The same day on 1985 and the same day on 2017. I would think by now on this day, they should just name it like Earthquake Day and have everybody outside. Thousands of people were perished in the 1985 earthquake, and more than 350 perished in the 2017 event. It's, again, so pretty insane. If you saw some of the footage from it, it was a very, very strong quake. Anything over 6 is big. Over 7 is huge, and it was nearly to 8. Every point is exponential, so it just keeps going up. Now, this is a day after the Taiwanese earthquake. Actually, we didn't. I think that is in web only. No, we do have that on.
It's in here.
So we'll talk about that here in a second. But that's just a day after the Taiwanese quake. So the Ring of Fire has been talked about for the last few days. I would say anybody that is on the West Coast or in general in the Ring of Fire, to be aware of your surroundings, be aware of where you are. Even if you are not per se somewhere where there's active earthquakes, if you are along the Ring of Fire, then be aware of tsunami risks. Now, this, they said pretty immediately that there were verified check marks, basically saying that 10-foot waves hit Mexico, but they weren't bad. But the tsunami warning went up and then got taken down almost immediately. So and then also for Japan, for Hawaii, for all the other places that they thought may affect if there was a tsunami. But when you get into the 7s and the 8s, that's where you get into some extreme risk for tsunamis. Now, there were a couple people that actually predicted this. Dutch Sense did a really good job, but also some of the smaller earthquake predictors. Somebody literally posted just a few hours before this, and all sorts of people are sharing their original prediction, and they were like almost exact. And I believe they were somebody who was actually using Dutch Sense's kind of way of doing it. Because Dutch Sense used to do videos on how to kind of do what he does. He shared the way he did it, and somebody got so close. It said, almost to the hour, and this was much before it happened. So I think that that's pretty insane. I do think that earthquake prediction is going to be, turning into something different. Obviously, a lot of people gave Dutch a lot of crap about it. Just a few years ago, earthquake prediction was looked at like, crazy. But now mainstream is now starting to follow suit. Mainstream, we've covered plenty of articles that now say they are now coming up with ways to predict it. Now they have shake alert in a lot of the West Coast cities. They are coming up with these systems to where it would be able to text you or be able to set off an alert on your phone just seconds before. So you might have 10 seconds or even 5 seconds to get out to the street. So this, I would highly recommend just being aware, because these big earthquakes can trigger other ones. This may have been triggered by some of the action that happened in Taiwan, which we'll talk about here in a second. Now, it seems like luckily not that many, if any. I believe there was 1 reported death. There may be a few more, but it looks like they got really lucky. And then catastrophic flooding in Puerto Rico as Hurricane Fiona dumps nearly 30 inches of rain. It says power began coming back on for small pockets of the islands on Monday, but astonishing rainfall totals triggered flooding and mudslides 5 years after Hurricane Maria devastated Puerto Rico. So this is another, by the way, another anniversary. Hurricane Fiona struck Puerto Rico southwest coast on Sunday, bringing destructive flooding, mudslides, and an island-wide power blackout one day after leaving one perished in the Leeward Islands. The storm went on to make a second landfall in the Dominican Republic very early on Monday morning, and then by Monday morning, a small number of the more than 1.4 million power customers in Puerto Rico began to have electricity restored. So, meanwhile, by the way, while the richest people in the world were eating hors d'oeuvres, this island was completely out of power, completely screwed. There were just so many suffering through this weekend. The entire place went out of power. U.S. territory at that. It says Fiona made landfall at 3:20 p.m. Eastern on Sunday, September 18th, on the extreme southwestern coast of Puerto Rico near Punta Tocon. Fiona was a Category 1 hurricane on the Saffir-Simpson hurricane wind scale with maximum sustained winds of 85 miles per hour when it made landfall. Luma Energy, the private company that handles the transmission and distribution of electricity in Puerto Rico, stated that full power restoration could take days due to the magnitude and scope of the blackout. By Monday morning, the power has been restored to nearly 100,000 customers. 100,000 out of 1.4 million. So there's still a ton of people without power. 1.3 million at least. I mean, that's pretty insane when you think about it. So it says the electrical system in all hospitals in the medical center complex has been restored. Lopez wrote on Twitter, "Our patients are safe and receiving the medical attention they require." As floodwaters rose, a blanket of brown water covered everything, submerging cars, first-floor apartments, and even an airport runway on the island's southern region. By the way, the videos, we have some attached over on the website. Dex, did you attach my tweet there to the website? I don't know if we...
On the website.
Sorry, it cut out, Dex. Yes.
I said, yeah, it's on the website and it's your next tab.
Okay, perfect. So check this out. This is, it says, just to reiterate, a U.S. territory agreed, no power, so many suffering. Meanwhile, will powerful chow down on hors d'oeuvres. Look at this. This is insane. This is what was going on there. Just to point out, this is very, very scary waterfall. This is what Puerto Rico was going through right now. As you can see, it was pretty extreme. So, and that was, I mean, it looks like a waterfall. It literally looks like a natural river. That was a main street through Puerto Rico. And luckily, looks like some of the people right next to it got off scot-free. What do you guys think about this? Let me know in the comments down below. We're about to talk about the Taiwanese event that just happened, which is not good timing for them either. RRB S29 says that is so awful. The storm didn't take out the power. I'd love to hear your theory. I'm open-minded. Let's see here. BTB, that was bigger than the 4.4 than if you felt that. Let's see here. It's Jay. Geo Huff. Tessie. True. What's going on? Donna Honey. Poor people. Yeah. Pray for all the Puerto Ricans, y'all. Yes. Rumble and Humboldt. President Zaddy. Damn, what's going on? Craig DeHunter. Puerto Rico's government will unfortunately hide the resources in a warehouse. Let's see here. Purple Avenda Joyce. Let's see here. Watched any of the Queen thing. Purple Lavender Joyce says, I was born in England and I didn't watch any of the Queen stuff. Dale Vallis here, Rhiannon S. Hey, how are you doing, Rhiannon? Nice to see you. And you guys, make sure to say hi to Rhiannon. Bug Out Adventures, we got I Love Jesus Here Forever. Wounded Dove, Sanbon, thanks for the Dutch link. Yes, no problem. I'm sure one of our mods put it up there. Bermuda, supposed. Let's see here. Praying for all that affected. Little Bear, Mystery School. Occult Stained Glass. Heavy Ordnance is in the house. Brenda Strahl, Light of Vibes. Beer Juice, Bumpity, Teresa Lynch. What is going on? CJ Blaze is in the house. Excuse me. Anthony Dugga, Dr. Sean Barry. Yeah, and I bet you we're, instead of sending $1 billion there, we're going to send $1 billion somewhere else. All right, we're going to talk about powerful earthquake that hits southeast Taiwan. But I do want to remind you, if you haven't already, things like this can happen. We're going to talk about it over the next couple weeks here because there's all sorts of stuff coming out. But I would like to recommend, if you are going to try to get some long-term survival food, if you do end up going through us, you'll end up supporting an independent channel at the same time as getting a huge discount. There is still an extended sale on the $250 off on a 3-month plan. That is, again, a 3-month set, 3 meals a day for 90 days of MREs, freeze-dried foods that are all packaged to last 25 plus shelf life years. So if you haven't checked this out, this is through My Patriot Supply, and it is, again, based on a 2,000 calorie diet a day. This is basically set up to where you have everything you need. Again, through all of the events that have happened over the last 3 years, this, of course, probably would have come in handy many times already. But again, the price on freeze-dried foods has skyrocketed in the same 3 years since 2019. The demand has gone way up and the supply has gone way down. If you look at it like that, if you do get something like this now, in another 3 years, we don't know where the price will be, and you'll still have 22 years left on shelf life. So again, it is better to get this stuff and hold on to it for a long time rather than, again, not having anything in your fridge. Most people have 3 days of food and water in their fridge, and that's pretty bad. So if you do want to do this, again, if this is for those of you that are already looking to do this, not only can you go and get a 72-hour kit, you could go get a 1-month kit, you could get a 3-month kit. Any one of your purchases through this website will end up profiting us and giving us a commission. Not only that, you are getting a discount in most cases, and you're helping us out. So again, we are not treated equally as far as we are covering news. And if, as you may know, news is not treated the same because we're not an approved source. So I do appreciate everybody that does support us this way. Again, any kind of where Fox or CNN can cover this kind of stuff and still be monetized, we most of the time are not. So thank you guys that do go over. Otherwise, we do have a connection with all sorts of other channels that can be able to tell you how to do this yourself. There are ways that you can prepare and dehydrate and freeze dry by yourself at home. And we try to connect you to as many sources as you can. Again, so you can do this if you don't have the funds to do this. So in the future, we will be doing videos trying to help you guys do this. Almost all of our affiliates, too, have also reached out and tried to help people do it without buying their product, which is really awesome. Like EMP Shield even helps people learn how to make Faraday cages and things like that if they can't afford their product. So I think that that's really cool. So then, again, that's marfooglenews.com/prep. Thank you, everybody that does go through that. And again, it's something that you get to keep. It's a really great product, and you're helping us out at the same time. All right, and then powerful earthquake hits southeast Taiwan. A tsunami warning was issued. Now, that tsunami warning has now been dropped, but the moments after were pretty crazy because it was a huge earthquake. A lot of the videos that were surfacing on Twitter looked really, really insane. Again, in Taiwan, same with Mexico. It said that a 6.8 magnitude earthquake hit the sparsely populated southeastern part of Taiwan on Sunday, the island's Weather Bureau said, causing damage including derailed train carriages and sparking tsunami warnings. The Weather Bureau said that the epicenter was at Taitung County and followed a 6.4 magnitude trembler on Saturday evening in the same time, which caused no casualties. The USGS measured the quake at a magnitude 7.2 and at a depth of 10 kilometers, which is also shallow. That's even shallower than the Mexican earthquake. It said that Taiwan media said a low-rise building housing convenience store collapsed and rescue work had begun to free those inside. Some of the images from that, by the way, were pretty horrific. Again, we have connected this and all of the other articles over on marfooglenews.com if you want to go see some of the images and different things that were put out on that. It says Japan's weather agency issued a warning for tsunami waves of 1 meter or about 9 feet for part of Okinawa Prefecture following the earthquake. The quake could be felt across Taiwan. The Weather Bureau said buildings shook briefly in the capital, Taipei. It says science parks in the southern cities of Tainan and the Kaohsiung, home to major semiconductor factories, said that there was no major impact on operations. Taiwan lies near the junction of 2 tectonic plates and is prone to earthquakes. More than 100 people perished in a quake in southern Taiwan in 2016, while a 7.3 magnitude quake took the lives of more than 2,000 people in 1999. So it seems to me that there's kind of an earthquake season, and it doesn't really happen every year. It feels like we're heading into one of these, and I don't know if you guys have felt the same way, but when these earthquakes start happening, it's just like it's one after another, after another, after another. It seems like Earth is releasing pressure right now. Highly be aware if you're anywhere around the Ring of Fire, but in general, any big earthquakes like this can trigger other ones. Within a day of this one, we of course had, within a day of this one, they had another 6.4 or 7.4. And then they had, of course, the Mexican quake just within a day or two after that. So be aware of where you are. If you are in a building, try to get out as soon as possible. Try to look at, what kind of building and what kind of structure you're in. If you're on the 70th floor, then of course look. A lot of people talk about the triangle, try to fit in between things so you don't get crushed. But I'd highly recommend watching some videos on how to survive earthquakes if you are inside of a building. There are different, hints and tips. I've always kind of known that if there's 2 bookcases or something, try to hide in a structure of power or in a doorway. A lot of people get in their bathtub and things. It's not always a great idea. It depends on the kind of structure, but that's usually more for tornadoes and hurricanes. But a lot of people comment and say get in your bathtub. I'd probably recommend a doorway, but it depends on the kind of structure. All right, and then Geo Huff, what's going on? John's Guitar Barn, Nonzi, Stealth Mode. Hey, how are you doing? And then over on D Live, we have a bunch of people that just piled in. Thank you guys, appreciate you. Kimbria says, I got my Flex 1500 shipping info today. Took 4 months. Yes, I actually waited over 6 months for mine, and I was super pumped when I got it. But yeah, again, that's partly because lithium is being fought over by countries right now. It's a good thing that they now have the Kodiak 2. That's the new lithium ion phosphate. That's even a newer technology, and that again is going to be available in December. Vicky K, Indianapolis Sketch, Chance Paladin, thank you for modding over there. Thank you, Jammer, as well. I love Jesus Forever for the glory of Christ. Thanks for the lemons there, and thank you for popping in. Lots of new people. Indianapolis Sketch, thank you for subscribing and getting that Marfia badge. All right, and then thank you, almost 4,500 watching in chat. Pretty crazy stuff going on here. Don Taylor, thank you for just subscribing about 9 minutes ago. 18 minutes ago, Nancy C. Crypto Fett, thank you for subscribing. 42 minutes ago, Free Agent, thank you for subscribing. Nataya BNB and C Machine, thank you for subscribing as well. And then Dex, do you want to talk about the Japan storm? 9 million people told to evacuate.
Right. So a super typhoon, Nanamadol, apparently has perished a couple people and injured almost 90. So this is a big storm. Obviously, when you have to evacuate 9 million. So just think about this. We've got, what's happening in Puerto Rico, what's happening in Mexico, what happened in Taiwan. Now we've got Japan. I even think there's some storms happening in Alaska too. So there's a lot happening around the world at one time right now. It's kind of crazy when you think about all of this coming together at the same time.
9 million people. Just put that into. That is the equivalent. By the way, the population of New York is 9 million. All of New York State, I believe. I don't think
that's more than that.
So maybe New York City. So that would be like evacuating all of New York City. That is pretty insane if you think about it.
Yep.
9 million people. Well, I know that even I think all of Washington has like 2 2 million or something. May even be less than 2 million. Gosh, I mean, it's
a staggering number.
It's crazy. I mean, New York makes it sound small when it's one city, but New York is giant, right? But think about this. All of Washington is less than 2. I think that's like equivalent of that's like a equivalent of evacuating California or something, right? I wonder what the population is in, that would be like Washington and Oregon and maybe even Idaho. That's insane. That is so many people being evacuated. Japan just does not have the best of luck. This was huge waves in Kochi. This looks like God. Look at that. This is a human being stands about this tall. This is actually one of these view towers. Look at that. Does that not look biblical? This is where somebody stands right here. These are boulders. This is not a micro scale thing. Like this, how tall are these crazy? I don't even know what you would call that. They're not waves because they're hitting and crashing. But look at that. That is absolutely absurd. There is, of course, rescue. Japan has so many natural disasters. The wrath of God. We evacuated millions, Donnie Ray says. Bobby James Cote. By the way, is anybody in Japan right now? I know I don't think we have that many watching from Japan, but I would love to hear from anybody that is in Japan or watching from Japan. That would be very useful to know how crazy this is to hear from a local. I know that we've gotten callers from Japan, but that was kind of on a rare case where they went to Japan after watching us for years here. Let's see here. We have Rochelle Schoening. Thank you so much for your support tonight. I appreciate that. Thank you. This is not a movie. Christian Moore says, I've been having dreams of water and chaos. I've talked about my dreams of flooding, and the dream was placed. It seemed like it was on the Oregon coast. Little Bear, what is going on? Thank you so much for the super sticker, and thank you for supporting Survival Game, BNB, Colorado Crypto Chick. Thank you. Last show, Mary Tyndall, again, thank you for your support last show. Patricia Rivas, Jolene Rice, Kathleen Sigurdson, and Apocalyptic Ben. Thank you guys for supporting the show. I appreciate you. So with Japan, with Puerto Rico, we have Taiwan, we have huge chunks, and then Mexico City. Look at all of these events happening at once. And they said that not even the crazy stuff is happening. They said that the moon wobble, the whole scientific community is agreeing that the moon wobble in the 2030s will cause catastrophic flooding worldwide. I'm starting to wonder, is that thing wobbling already or what? What's going on? And then U.S. Army to conduct military training exercises in Phoenix and Peoria. Dex, do you want to cover this?
Yeah, so they put out an alert, and we've seen these types of drills before, but obviously this is close quarters. It's in major cities, so they're saying, hey, it's going to involve air and ground exercises, close quarter drills. One of the ones I read, it said something about loud bangs and explosions and stuff. Obviously, helicopters flying low. When this happened back in 2015, they explained that Black Hawk helicopters flew through the heart of downtown Phoenix between buildings. So just a heads up, this is starting on the 20th, so tomorrow for about 3 days in both Phoenix and Peoria in Arizona. So going to be an interesting time there. I'm sure a lot of people will be hearing things, and I'm sure a lot of people that don't know about it might be surprised. They do, as always, try to work with local LEO and others to make sure that stuff happens in ways that don't disrupt the public as much as possible. But when these happen, it seems like it always does disrupt, and we'll hear about it, I'm sure.
So I want to make a call out to people in the Phoenix area. If in Phoenix and Peoria, if you are there and you get any kind of ring footage, or if you pull out your phone and you got helicopters flying over, send it to marfugglenews.com/playmyvideo. I don't know how many of you are over in Arizona, but if you see this stuff flying over you and it's just a crazy, insane thing, I'd love for you guys on the ground to let us know what is actually happening during this drill. If you see stuff that's in public, like, tons and tons of Chinooks flying over or crazy Blackhawks flying 10 feet over your house, get your phone out. Once you hear the double tap your power button and get your camera out and send it to us at, again, marfooglenews.com/playmyvideo. When all of these go on in U.S. cities, usually we can get some pretty good footage if you guys already know about it. Plus, we cover these kind of drills because there have been so many huge real events that have somehow, coincidentally, coincided with these drills. Very weird. Like, there will be a drill like this, and then all of a sudden there will be some sort of crazy event that everywhere covers because, somebody walks into a grocery store or some sort of, boom boom goes off or something. It's weird how many of these have lined up with real events. And then U.S. aircraft carrier is to visit South Korea amid North Korean threats. It says that out of SK, a U.S. aircraft carrier is to visit South Korea this week for its first joint training with South K warships in 5 years. Officials said on Monday in an apparent show of force against increasing NK nuclear threats. Sorry about that. Almost had a sound issue there. It says a USS Ronald Reagan aircraft carrier and its battle group will arrive at the southeastern Southern Korean naval base on Friday for combined training meant to boost the Allies' military readiness and show the firm resolve by the Korea-U.S. alliance for the sake of peace and stability on the Korean peninsula. So, Dex, this is also something that really pisses off the NK side, right? Didn't they make nuclear threats if we continued this, or... What did we cover like 2 weeks ago?
They signed a new nuclear law into place that said if anything was to happen, that they could not just respond for defense, they could respond in a first strike, but also if anything was targeted towards their leadership,
that's right.
They would immediately, without any conversation, without any decision, immediately launch.
And this drill, specifically in many years, they have done something, didn't they call it something? Basically, they trained to cut the head off a snake, right? And in that sense, Kim is the head on the snake. So they drilled basically a kind of a mock version of if they were to go in there, take Kim out. That's the kind of drills that they have pretended to do. And Kim is not like that. He's been pissed off about it every time. But now they signed this new pact or law, and who knows if it, just them stepping up the rhetoric. But they said that they signed this thing so they could do a first strike. So if they even think somebody's attempting it, they could launch a nuke or, basically start a conflict over this. So who knows if they are going to change the drill because of that. But if they do, get close or go into their airspace or their ADIZ zone or whatever, who knows if that could trigger something. I highly doubt it because I don't think that NK would, but we're going to cover something in here in a few minutes, and it's probably going to, make a lot of you scratch your head talking about what Xi Jinping just said. They're essentially saying that they will take Taiwan, but they're saying... they're kind of giving a date, so we'll talk about that here in a minute. But what do you think something is going to happen? I'd love to hear your predictions in the chat, and then, of course, in the comments. If you're watching the replay and drinking your coffee, good morning, and thank you for watching the replay. I appreciate each and every one of you that ends up watching the show the next day. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Thank you guys for supporting us through just all of the crazy stuff going on in the world. I appreciate you. Thank you, and thank you. Thank your mods, by the way. Thanks you guys for keeping it peaceful down there. I appreciate you. And make sure to go check out all of their channels. We're working on a friends page, by the way, for all of the mods. All the mods are actually going to have a connection, and then all of the channels that we work with are going to have a space, and we're going to have a cool setup to where we can actually share out a lot of people and have kind of one space where you can go to find everybody. It's going to be really cool. All right, and then before we talk about, so this is where we get into some of the crazier stuff. So you might want to tune out if you do get stressed or anxious very easily. Just to give you warning, if you don't like stuff that could be considered fear porn, then I would tune out right now. Again, so nobody can say that we're doing this for views. I would highly recommend you don't watch. Okay, and then before we talk about that, I do want to remind you, right now, there is, of course, upwards of $170 off on different packages of the Flex. There is a waiting list for this solar generator and this whole system because it has lithium technology in it. Lithium, this is not something they can control. Most of this is because world and countries are fighting over lithium. In fact, we've covered news where they are going to require the world to essentially switch to electric vehicles and do all of these crazy things. And even the companies that do the lithium metals are saying that this is insane because we're barely going to be able to make this. So if you do want solar technology, which is a great technology because one, these solar generators, you have free energy. As long as you have sun, you have power. Two, they are absolutely silent. So well, at least this system is. So that means people will not hear your generator running from 4 blocks away. And there is no noxious fumes that come out of it. So you can have this running inside your home. Again, I have this running and it's able to power all of my devices, all my music gear, all my computers, all my lights here. And essentially, I can power it with the sun. So it's a pretty amazing system. Now, the Energy, again, is modular. This is the Energy Flex 1500 is a modular system which you can actually extend up to 96 batteries. Most people will end up just getting a head unit with one battery and say the optimum setup for portability is a battery, a head unit, and 4 panels. But you can actually add a supercharger mod. It's a box that's about the same size that goes in the middle. And that way you can actually plug in 12 panels for the same battery. Or if you have 2 batteries, you can plug in that 12 and you can keep going like that. So again, if you end up plugging in 12 panels, you will cut the charging time in a third, which is absolutely insane. So for, say it's about 3.5 hours with 4 panels to charge, you could cut that into basically a third of that with 12 panels. And then that battery, if you had one, that can last most people, you're talking about, depending on what you're powering, anywhere from a day to 3 days, right? So really, really cool. It really depends on what you're plugging into it. If you need more power, you can actually go, and more time, then you can get more batteries. Again, I mentioned they have the new lithium iron phosphate system. In December, they're going to have the Kodiak X2 coming out. And that system is an all-in-one. That is to compete with these other ones that have built-in batteries. That is an amazing system. What is really cool about that is it has 6,000 charge cycles. So to put that in perspective, you can charge this all the way up. You can literally have this running from 100% battery to 0% for 16 years every single day, and it will still have 80% of its capacity. So this will last decades and decades. Most people are not going to use it every single day. So this could potentially last 10, 20, 30, 40 years. That's what most people look like when they are buying or investing in something like this. The price are not, these are not cheap items. These are extremely highly quality made generators. These are things that back up something that you really can't replace, right? So make sure to go check both of these out. The Kodiak, again, might even ship out before, I don't know. It is using the new lithium ion phosphate, but both have their pros and cons. They are totally 2 different systems. One is totally modular, can be extended up. The other one can be linked up to 2 systems, and with those 2 systems, you can actually power up to 24 watts. That would be for RVs or for van life. You could hook 2 of those up and run pretty much anything you can think of. So this is a great system. Make sure to also check out their folding portable panels. I think one person could literally take a Flex 1500 and probably 6 by themselves, 6 solar panels, and carry it. It wouldn't be fun, but you could if you had to, and that's what most of us are looking at. As far as if you had to get somewhere and walk, then you would want something portable. All right, and that's again, marfoogle.com/energy with an I, INERGY. You'll end up saving money with the code Marfoogle, and you're helping our channel at the same time. And, of course, getting an awesome system that you could use for fun, you can use for SHTF, or you could just use for a power outage or a rolling blackout. It's probably would pay for itself if you live in California with constant rolling blackouts, because you won't have to go and rent a hotel somewhere. All right, and then President B says, again, U.S. forces would defend Taiwan against Xi's aggression. President JB, in an interview that aired Sunday, said that U.S. military personnel would defend Taiwan if Xi military were to launch an invasion of the democratically ruled island, in comments that yet again appear to venture beyond the longstanding U.S. policy on the issue. If you talk about the whole one China policy and everything, they have been really vague about if they would, but now JB, Brandon, has talked about this several times, and he said that he would go in and he would pledge the military to doing it. Dex, this is now twice very publicly.
And twice that the White House has to go back in and sort of downplay his comments. So they did it last time, and I think they're sort of generally giving it the same response they did last time, where they, acknowledge the U.S. I think the quote is, the U.S. remarks seriously, violate the. Actually, that may be that's China's quote, but they go back to talking about, they understand the one Xi policy, so to speak, right? So it's funny because it's just like he keeps saying it and then they keep backing down. So you don't know what to believe at this point. Like, are we or are we not? And then every time it happens, of course, Xi gets upset too.
Well, and then most people ask, like, why is JB saying this out of all people? Most people think that JB is, holding on to Xi's pocket. So it's almost like maybe Xi is telling him, like, hey, say you will do this, so they don't think you're, on some sort of payroll somewhere. I don't know. But what I do know is that he has now said this twice. The White House has now corrected or tried to pull it back. How many times has this president said something where then the official White House has to come out and correct it? I know that the last one, and even pretty much all presidents, say something that has to be corrected, but man, it's like almost every time he speaks without a teleprompter, they end up having to correct or roll back his comments. I mean, it's pretty often. I'm not even trying to be this side or that side, which, by the way, I think that being this side and that side, that is, I actually agree with Brian from High Impact on that a lot of it is pushed, and to say that people fit into a two-party system is kind of insanity, if you think about it, to be either one or the other. And each side is saying that the other side is crazy. I mean, that's just a division tactic in itself. I like to say that I'm a late 60s era liberal. But of course, a late 60s era liberal is now considered a far right conservative. Is that not crazy? If you were a liberal in the late 60s, and I only know this because my aunt and uncle were late 60s era like liberals, and they were always liberal. Now they are considered, they're probably on a list somewhere, and that just drives me nuts. Like Elon Musk said, he actually did a meme that shows, like, if you were this far over this way, now it's not that you've changed, it's the definition of it has completely moved. It's like they took the middle, left, and right, and then they totally like shaken it and moved it. But the marker still stayed there. So now you're over here, but the whole thing has been moved over. I just think it's insanity. What do you think? Let me know in the comments down below. We, of course, I think everybody should have an open mind. I think that the more somebody listens to the opposing argument, that the more they'll get a balanced look. The problem is that if you watch Fox, then you're on this side. If you're on CNN, you're on this side. I think people should watch I think everybody, and then people that watch BBC think that they're in the middle or something. It's not like that. It's everywhere. All of them are pretty much owned by the same people. So, and if they're not owned by the same people that own all of these different companies are then owned by somebody else, or their brothers or cousins, or they're high-fiving in the background like, hey, you run this story and I'll run this one. And we'll play off of each other. And then we have Xi lodges complaint after President B says U.S. would defend Taiwan in a Xi invasion. Dex, do you want to basically say what he got pissed off, as always? And then we'll go
exactly. So just as expected, whenever JB speaks about Taiwan, Xi comes out and says, look, there's only one Xi country in the world. There's that one policy. It has to be there. Taiwan is part of it. And it's, the government is the People's Republic of Xi, and, it's the one legitimate government. And that's what he says. That's what they believe. It's what they've said for the longest time. They continue to reiterate reunification, and even though the leadership in Taiwan is, pushing for democracy and continues to run their own democracy and trying to be separate, Xi's not, and his country's not for that.
Yeah, they came back, and I think it's crazy that the entire world is connected so thoroughly to a country that basically everyone knows. I mean, this is a super communist country that tracks, and basically there's a ton of proof that they've just done absolutely horrid things, yet everybody's tied financially. It just kind of shows you that everybody will throw away any of their morals to the side for money or for cheap labor or for this. Everybody, since 1979, when they opened their doors to capitalism, they basically had everyone across the planet was like, well, God, we shouldn't do it morally, but it's $2 an hour for work instead of, $30 an hour work. Okay, we'll do it. Meanwhile, everybody fed their money into this government, and now this government, most would say, is number 2 in the world, if not, some believe number 1. If you look at the map of who does trade with who, it's pretty scary to see that the entire world has gone red. And it's not Vlad. And then this is just, I don't know what to think about this, Dex. It says that Xi says that they want the PLA ready to invade Taiwan in 2027. Okay, so that's 5 years from now. And by the way, the U.S. and all of our expert think tanks said 2026 or 2027. What? 5 years? Do you think that they even need 5 years? And why would they even say this 5 years down the road? They know that we would be able to come up with a response in that kind of time. Seems to me like he's almost throwing that out there so people think, oh, well, we have 5 years, and then it happens way sooner than that.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. That's a cover.
Why would they say that? It says the deputy director of Central Intelligence Agency, CIA, says that Xi Jinping wants the military to be ready to invade Taiwan in 2027, though he will not necessarily order the People's Liberation Army to do so. So he wants them to be ready. Meanwhile, the entire Chinese Navy and military is all getting ready to do it now. So when the Xi military did their drills and surrounded Taiwan, basically they set up an entire event like they were going to do it, and then they pulled back. It looks a lot like what Vlad did almost exactly a year before he really did do it. My prediction is in the next year. What is yours? I'd love to hear it in the chat. In fact, I'll turn the chat on. How many years, or do you think it's going to be in a matter of weeks, months? And we've done this poll before, and most people were longer out. Where are you guys at now? So do you think it will be this year, in more than a year, or more than 5 years? So 2027 would be more than 5 years. Where do you guys think that this will be? So just answer months, a year plus, or 5 years plus. Or technically, you could always put never. But I don't. They say they will take over if it's not voluntary. They always could put somebody in office somehow when they switch power in Taiwan. Something happens internally, and then they switch powers peacefully. But that will also affect the entire world. Meanwhile, months, 2 months tops, 5 months, 12 months, 5 hours, 1 month. Nobody believes the 5 years. Wow. January 2023. You know, most of these 2 years, if not sooner. Nobody believes 5 years. Why would they say 2027? Why are all the experts in the US and the intelligence, why are they telling us 5? Is that to reduce panic? Dex, doesn't that just seem weird?
Yeah, it does. It really does.
Look at what we're doing. We are now trying to make our own semiconductor chip. Our president is telling us that everything is going to go back to made in America again. Why would they? You think that doesn't mean anything? Do people think when he said and he did that speech? And I'm not talking about the red speech, the creepy one. We're talking about a few months ago. He did a speech where he said that we're all going to go back, and we're all going to go back to made in America again. It wasn't a campaign thing. It was during a time, and he said then he went right into, and here's the guy from Intel, stand up guy from Intel, and notified us that they were going to make a semiconductor chip here, factory here. You guys, I mean, that seems really obvious to me. We're going to go back to made in America again, and we're going to make our own semiconductor chip. It sounds like they're getting ready to part with Taiwan's semiconductor chip factory, and they're going to set up to do it without. Maybe China doesn't want to take the U. Maybe China first wants to take all of Asia. And that's why I think Japan is acting the way they do. Japan believes that if they take Taiwan, they're going to then take Japan. The Philippines has said similar things. All of those smaller Asian countries, they're worried about Xi as well. They're all arguing over land and everything else. By the way, Kelly Me, thank you so much. I appreciate your super sticker there. Thank you. Christian Moore, again, thank you. Thank you. And Rochelle, thank you. Steve McQueen says, says, your show is the best. I'm high as a kite. I should turn on the different colors in the background. That's funny. Hopefully you're having a good trip. Maybe I should warn people, like, if you're on acid, then don't watch. You might have a bad trip. A new threat from Xi faces Taiwan's military trolls with drones. Dex, you want to go over this one?
Certainly. So we've talked a lot about the new initiatives that Taiwan has about going after these drones when they come in, but now we've got it's obviously the numbers are just getting up higher and higher, and they're calling them trolls, but at the same time they're not necessarily the military from Xi's country, but they certainly do a lot of things, with their drones, flying them over, doing stuff. And it's one of the things that's very troublesome to them because you don't know what's real and what's not, right? So they've been holding a position to actually, go after them. But, some of these people are sort of making jokes about it or doing things with their drones, shouting things from them, doing other stuff. And it's kind of sort of becoming humorous, but also not at the same time, because it's very dangerous too, given the tension that's going on between the two countries.
Okay, well, you want to hear shady? A lot of people across the United States, and I don't know if this is happening worldwide, but anybody with a garden in their backyard, they've been having drones fly over. And this, I told you guys this a few weeks ago. We had somebody say that they didn't want it public, but they had a Ring doorbell cam And this has been happening. So I want you guys to tell me if this happens to your neighborhood. So they're going with this solar push, right? And they're saying that because they're surveying the places that they want to put the solar panels in Washington, that they need to fly a drone over. And they were telling people so that they wouldn't shoot it down, right? So they're flying over, and they said that the drone is a connected drone with basically a direct connection to some sort of third-party thing that has NASA, and it's connected to NASA and NOAA. NASA and NOAA. And they're flying these big commercial drones over, and they're telling people, going door to door, knocking on people's doors and saying, hey, just so you know, there's going to be a drone over your backyard. Well, now people are saying that they're flying and hovering for extremely long times over the people that have gardens and at-home greenhouses, and if they have any kind of things, to the point where now people have these like camouflage see-through nets that go over, and it makes it look like it's a bush instead of a garden. So they're taking their garden and they're putting these things over when the drones go over, so people don't see that they have an at-home garden. Has anyone done that? I want to see. Have you had drones flying over? Do you have it? Well, basically, have you seen this happen? I wouldn't even say if you have an at-home garden, actually. But have you seen this or have heard of this? Is this something that everybody has heard of? What is going on? Like, why would they? Are they marking down who is self-sustainable, who could live off the land, who could live through something? Because we know after the last 4 months of them basically declaring anybody that's a prepper in that category. Somebody said, yeah. So this, I don't think this is something that's. They're saying they have NOAA and NASA connected drones flying over our house, and they say that that's for the reason for putting solar panels in. GeoHuff, if you do, and it looks like it's cheap, or it should be cheap. It's a see-through mesh type of thing. You throw it over your garden. It can still get sun through it. And you put it over your garden. But one thing I saw is, will you get good sun through this thing? But from the sky, it looks like it's something else. Let's see here. It's none of the government's business. Susan H. Yeah. No schnizmo. No shnikes. Okay? Let's see here. Deborah. They had a big drone fly over, but I think it was going to an Air Force base. And I'm not talking. These aren't like the Predator drones, but these are big drones. They're probably the size of my desk. They're the I forget what they call. DJI has one that the government uses, which they shouldn't use because it's DJI. Oh Lord says, hide in the bush with your rifle, or put the camouflage over yourself and just be ready. Well, that's why they said that they were going door to door. That because they didn't want people to take it down. So it sounds like maybe they did. Maybe some of them have been taken down. But the thing is I bet they do that too, because Marf, my friend, has a garden and gets drones hovering over all the time. Yes, they're checking. Remember the stories about DHS putting stickers on mailboxes? Ugh, that creeps me out. The red and green or blue, red and blue. Wow. So it's like they want to list all the people that have that are self-reliant. Somebody said off-gridding is illegal, and I bet you some places are. California wants people to register their gardens with the USDA. What the? And remember during CV when they closed down seeds? And it was like during that time period, it was like they closed down everything. You couldn't buy clothes. You couldn't. Remember that one point where they said you couldn't buy clothes, you couldn't buy any of this? They roped off the seeds. And I bet you, and this is what's crazy. Now we know that Facebook gave the data and DM messages to the government. What's crazy to me is like they catered things around Dr. Effie, they catered how they were running the thing to compared to how people were responding to things. So I just wonder if they, when they closed off the seeds, they did that for a reason, because they left certain things open, but they specifically closed off seeds almost everywhere, just for a small time period, and everybody started freaking out. And it was almost like they were gauging a reaction. Like, what would happen if we took all the seeds, Fred Meyer's and Target's and all these places, they roped off the area with seeds? That's just freaky to me. Anyways, thank you guys. Thank you for letting me know. And then before we talk about Vlad, can't achieve UKR goal, U.S. military intel chief says. Just a quick reminder, if you haven't already, you can protect yourself against an EMP strike, or at least you can protect your cars. If you have an older car, probably a newer car that would end up perishing during an EMP strike, then you can protect it. You can wire one of these into your car it's a super easy process. That's one of their most popular devices. It basically grounds the signal of an EMP strike or all three phases of an EMP multiple times in less than 500 trillionths of a second before it's able to fry your car. It can also protect you against a Carrington-level solar event. So when we do get a Carrington-level event, which will happen, it's a matter of time, not a matter of if, this will actually protect your vehicle. Now, they also make EMP shields for your home, for your generators. In fact, EMP Shield and Energy have partnered up. Energy Solar Generator is the only solar generator that you can get an EMP shield directly made for. It goes on the input and the output. You can protect your RVs, your motorcycles, your boats, pretty much anything that you want to keep running. If you do live on a boat or a houseboat or a yacht or anything like that, you can actually get these for that as well. So make sure to go to marfooglenews.com/EMP. You will not only get $50 off per device, but that also stacks on top of any sale they ever do. Our $50 off is grandfathered in on top of any sale they do. It always stacks. So make sure to go check them out. marfooglenews.com/EMP. It's a veteran-owned business. It's 100% American-made down to the screws. And you will get a product that is, again, from the same company that is now contracted with agencies like DOD, DHS, and the DEMSO team. Again, they are working nonstop to try to protect the grid, because our last president actually signed an executive order to help protect it. And then the new president came in and, for some reason, unsigned a bunch of stuff. Really weird stuff. But some of it couldn't be touched, and they are still working to protect our grid. But it is a huge process, and we are still extremely vulnerable. And one thing I would just recommend they're not going to come if the whole thing goes down. There's nobody going to come help and save you. There's nobody. They're not going to pay for you to be protected. They're going to protect their own infrastructure, and they're going to protect their military bases. And again, you are going to be high and dry, and you're pretty much going to be left on your own if it all goes down. So. And then Vlad can't achieve UKR goal, U.S. military intel chief says. It says Vlad's setbacks and stretched resources in UKR show its forces are incapable of achieving the initial aims in invading the country as things stand now. That was, of course, according to the Pentagon's intelligence chief, said Friday. Which, by the way, a lot of people, the joke is like, Pentagon's intelligence is like what is that, not redundant, oxymoron, intelligent. It says we're coming to a point right now where I think Putin is going to have to revise what his objectives are for this operation. Lieutenant General Scott Barrier, director of the Defense Intelligence Agency, told an intelligence and national security conference outside of Washington, because it's pretty clear right now that he's not going to be able to do what he initially intended to do. That is where it comes into play, where people think something else has to be done, or something else, an escalation of some sort, nuclear or some sort of action must be done, or is he just going to end up pulling out and fail? It could be. I mean, look, the U.S. has gone into places, done things for years, and then pulled out in failure. I mean, just quite recently we did that. So is this going to be one of their failures? It very well could be. Dex, what do you think? It obviously doesn't look like it's going to end anytime soon.
Yeah, it's not, this intelligence person is, I guess he's not wrong in saying, like, he's got to change his objective, right? Because that's not what's actually being accomplished at the moment, or at least that's not what they're reporting to the West. So, I think maybe it's just a sign of saying, don't be shocked if we see the objective changed. And I don't know if that means it'll be changed in a bigger way or if it'll actually be reduced. I think, we've been reporting for the last 2 weeks now about all the major setbacks, about all the, the push, the forward momentum from UKR and the reclaiming of territory and stuff like that. So, it's been long enough that it's not going to come back and say, oh, they were wrong in how they reported that. It's sort of, I think a lot of that has come to pass. So we'll have to see how much longer this goes on. If it is a complete and full, change of course, or if there's just a regrouping and, a re-energizing of how they go about doing things and doing things differently. I mean, we've often said it looks like they weren't using they're all using their top military, using their top gear. They were using older stuff. So I don't know if that was because they didn't have it or because they, had other issues. So, maybe it was, maybe they're going to come back for round 2 and, bring in the heavy, so to speak. I don't know. I sort of feel like that this is one of those things that if he was really going to achieve something, he would have done it. And it looks more like it's being done as part of a bigger plan. When I look at what's happening across the globe, especially with, the alliance now with Xi, or the reaffirming of the alliance with Xi. I shouldn't say it's new. That's something that's been going for a long time, but obviously the restating of that and making it bigger. What, Xi wants to accomplish in Taiwan, the fact that this could have sort of been a test run or a weakening run of what the West would do and how the West would react and how much would the West spend and what would they do from a tactical point of view, and what types of gear would they send in so that maybe they could be better prepared for how they deal with Taiwan, which probably has a lot more strategic value in that particular case. So all in all, time will tell what's going to happen with this shift, if it's going to continue to shift, towards the UKR favor, or if there's going to be a revamp. But ultimately, from what we're seeing, it doesn't look like it's, like the story's going to change from what we've been told already.
No, and as far as it looks like they did reclaim, there was the one point, which if you didn't watch the last kind of week of shows, where they had, there was rumors that Vlad and his military grabbed people, women, children, and took them back across the line, which made some think that they actually did that because they were evacuating them, because they were going to let the UKR retake that land and then smash them with some sort of missile. Right, and then take them out, like it was some sort of strategy plan to take a bunch of soldiers out. We don't know. That hasn't happened yet. It has only been a few days since that. It's only been a weekend or 4 or 5 days. But now they say that UKR says that Vlad basically did a missile and it struck close to a nuclear plant. Now, it says that a Russian missile struck close to a nuclear power plant in southern UKR without damaging the 3 reactors, but hit the industrial equipment in what UKR authorities denounced Monday as an act of nuclear terrorism, which is funny. They can use the word nuclear terrorism, but it's do they show, have they ever shown one of the actual casings or how they prove who did it or who, and I'm not to say that it wasn't, but it seems to me like I don't know. They just never show any of that.
Well, I think it's easier to prove a missile because it usually can be tracked and for a longer period of time with air. air tracking systems where a shell is a lot shorter range. So I think it's the shelling that's often easy to mistake, or at least blame and point fingers back and forth. But when you're using something a little bit more longer range, I think it's kind of easier for them to at least track where it came from.
Didn't they threaten to hit their power? Isn't that something they threatened last week, Vlad? As far as like they or maybe it was a comment that they made and said that we're gonna put them back in the dark ages or something, or we're gonna. I feel no, it was one of their TV people. Do you remember the TV people said we need to hit them and put them in the dark, knock off all their power, and starve them out? Is that? I feel like that was on their TASS news agency. I'll have to look back at what our show was on. I think it was last Wednesday or Thursday, but it said that the missile struck 300 meters or 328 yards, about 1,000 feet from the Pevden-Nukolensk nuclear plant. So it's not Zaporizhia. This is a different plant. And then, of course, it is run by the same people at Energoatom. Black and white CCTV footage released by UKR's Ministry of Defense showed two large fireballs erupting one after the other in the dark. Okay, why? I'm sorry, but it's 2022. So even back in 2001, which again, the Pentagon, one of the most defended places in the world, one of the most monitored places in the world, we still don't have video of a flying object that carries people hitting one of the sides of the building. 21 years later, there's still these crappy cameras, even though anybody now in any country can go to a Walmart and buy a freaking 4K security camera. Wouldn't you think that a nuclear power plant would have extremely high-tech surveillance on it? But it's always black and white CCTV. Dex.
And well, to be fair, at nighttime, a lot of times those cameras they flip over to black and white.
Well,
for infrared
right now. I know, but
so,
no. The newest surveillance has color infrared, so you can see colors even at night now. But I'm saying that was like 5 years ago they had that technology. All I'm saying is, look at how the governments and power companies and all these things, they don't upgrade their. You would think that would be something that would be top clearance. That if they were going to put it on anything, if they were going to upgrade security surveillance, that a nuclear power plant would be one of them. Even if it's in UKR. UKR is a big country. It's got 40 million plus people. I mean,
we have better security surveillance on our houses than they have on their plant, right?
That's what I'm saying. It doesn't make sense. The $16 cameras at Walmart, the Energizer, like made in China cameras, I guarantee are better than this footage. And why? I get that. Oh, maybe they didn't have the budget to redo the system. Since when? 1990? It's a nuclear power plant that supplies power to Europe. I just don't understand that. And then Vlad taunts America with Arctic military drills close to Alaska. So we've talked about the Arctic many times. By the way, Natalie D, thank you. Much love to the Fugel fam and the best mods on YouTube. Thank you. Bunny Ha, California wants people to register their gardens with the USDA. It's a new campaign. Bunny Ha, that is absolutely scary. And that's under the guise, they want you to because they want you to control the water, right? They're going to tell you, well, we don't have enough water to go around. So that's why we need to know if you have a garden, because we need to know of how much you're watering, right? And then they'll restrict even if you do have a garden and you are self-sustainable, well, they'll turn down your water to a certain amount to where you can't make a big garden or a sustainable garden. Anyways, even though you're paying for it, whatever. But these Arctic drills, we showed you about a month and a half ago. There was information coming in from all different sides, including UK and including from Canadian intelligence, saying that they have not only doubled, quadrupled They have 10 times their Arctic base sizes in the Arctic, as far as Vlad. It said that Putin taunts America with Arctic military drills close to Alaska, with submarines launching cruise missiles to test readiness for conflict. I don't think that the UKR thing, I don't think they're sending in all their best stuff. I think they're sending in all their crappy stuff. I think they're being strategic, and who knows? Do you think that they're retreating because they're getting ready for a bigger conflict with other countries involved? Say China, NK, the I countries, Cuba, all these other Venezuela, like all these other countries are lining up to work together. All of them are meeting. All of them are having these face-to-face meetings over the last 2 years. Seems to me like they are getting ready for something way bigger. Why haven't we seen Vlad use their top state-of-the-art stuff on this? They say that they've used some of their state-of-the-art missiles, but it does. Why wouldn't Vlad, if they've got all of these state-of-the-art missile systems, why wouldn't, instead of sending human beings in there, why wouldn't they just, bomb the crap out of these places? Collateral damage? Couldn't they go in or tell people or give them warning and say, we're going to bomb the crap out of this place if you don't evacuate? What's to stop it? They have missile defense systems, but not if they just, then why, if they have missile defense systems that are so good, why are so many missiles hitting? I don't know. I'm not an expert. I might sound like a dummy to somebody who is, but let me know. Tell me how this works. Do you think that Russia's using their full power in UKR? Because to me, they sent in their oldest 100-year rifles with conscripts, people they pulled off the street. It seems like they're trying to... it's like a crappy landlord that's trying to do whatever they can to do-it-yourself kind of fix something without actually fixing the problem. Like they instead of getting the place fumigated, they're saying, hey, I'll take $50 off your rent, go get yourself a bug bomb or something. I don't know. Doesn't seem right. Dex, with submarines launching cruise missiles, that's kind of creepy, and that's right off of Alaska.
Right. We've been talking about the investment in the Arctic. We've been talking about the importance of the Arctic. They're creating that shipping lane to move trade from Xi's country more closely or more quickly, I should say, over to some of the bigger ports in Vlad's country, going through that Arctic area as the ice retreats, and they can break some of it more of it apart. So they've taken a huge investment in that. Obviously, from a counter or a first strike perspective, that location is the most important to get to their enemy, so to speak, whether it's us to them or them to us. So yes, the Arctic has always played a key role, and when you start to see activity there, whether it's investments in bases, investments in equipment, or in this case drills with cruise missiles and submarines, you need to pay attention. That's where things are going to happen when it happens, and it makes total sense that they would be doing these types of things. And it certainly should be somewhat alarming, at least and I'm sure our own military is paying very close attention to what they're doing, just like they probably do when we do similar drills in Alaska or other locations. So, very important area.
And this is, again, it's still image from the video released by the Russian Defense Ministry, shows what it said to be a nuclear-powered submarine sailing during the military drills UMCA in the Chukchi Sea, right off Alaska. Now, check that out. What if you're chilling on the coast in Alaska and just seeing something like that pop out? I would be freaked out, especially if you had no warning and no alert or anything. Just see a missile flying out of the water. Oh, look, seagulls and a missile. I don't think that part needed the echo. It was probably bad echo timing, to be honest. Matthew Kamaleski, thank you, and thank you. I appreciate that. Says, I think we have to keep an eye open to sleeper viruses, computer kind, water plants, and power plants. G might do something like that to Taiwan also. They could also destroy them without firing a shot. I agree. They could also infiltrate. They could do all sorts of stuff. I get what you're saying, and they could do digital. Well, we already saw Taiwan had all of their webcams across the island go down randomly. They said it was because a power plant went out, but it was just super weird. All the webcams, all the websites were down. It was super. It was almost like it was a test. I mean, a country like China, it seems like it wouldn't be that hard of a take for them to take Taiwan. The size comparison, the Navy, everything else, they would have to have help from the U.S., and the U.S. would already have to be there for them not to take it. Of course, not to underestimate defending a smaller place, especially when they know the lay of the land. They are able to set up defenses in, prior. One thing I don't get is if they're taking over in 2027, why is Taiwan, if that's what the real intelligence is, why are they setting up mines right now, 5 years early? Taiwan is putting mines out in their ocean, and they passed the laws. They did all the the checks and balances and the right paperwork for them to put mines out there. They're handing out pamphlets to the citizens. The military in Taiwan is handing out pamphlets, getting them prepared, and says, if this starts, here's where to go. Here's how to defend yourself. Here's where to come if you want to fight. I mean, they're allowing people to fight. If it does go down, they're going to basically grab everybody and anybody. I don't know. Wendy K, thank you. I appreciate the emoji and the super sticker there. And then Natalie D, thank you. Bunny Ha, PB Ben, P Ben, thank you. Ready to rebuild the house the devil takes. Yeah, or has it taken already? Robert, thank you. Robert, thank you so much for your support, and thank you. You can always write a comment there, and I appreciate your support. Also, I wanted to say thank you. There's a few people that require mentioning right now. Thank you to everybody that popped over. FG, thank you for your support on PayPal. I really do appreciate you guys that go the extra step there. Thank you. FG, I really do appreciate your support. Eddie K says, thanks, Adam and Dex. Did that, I believe, during a show. And then Joanna H, Karen W, Dawn B, West of the West, thank you. LJP, Terry T, Anonymous, thank you. Franco LLC, the Madco Group, Jennifer R, Peter S, Chris G, Carol McLean, and Helen M. Thank you guys. I appreciate that. Dex, let's go over some of the web only here. We've got a lot of crazy stuff going on.
Yeah, the story continues. Please, there's a lot. So head over to marfooglenews.com or open that description on YouTube and click on the show notes link. It'll take you right here. Again, as Adam told you in the beginning of the show, all of the news we just talked about is on the top of the page. You hit this yellow bar, you get to the overflow, you get to everything else that's going on. The story with Vlad continues. There's, apparently the story is now there's troops, they're trapped. Vlad's troops have sort of been cut off and trapped in certain areas. There's people still laying in the fields that need to be taken care of. The Wagner group, which we've talked about, is apparently trying to recruit 1,500 felons for the UKR conflict, and other things that have happened, like UKR taking other areas in the riverbank, etc. So lots more information on that. Of course, we've got a little bit of an update on some of the things that were happening with the Queen's funeral there. Updates with G are on this page, additional stories that go hand in hand with what we've talked about earlier. We've got a lot of the political stuff that's going to be ramping up again as we move into it. Someone else has made an announcement for their run in a couple of years, pending the current administration doesn't run, is what he said. Lots of other stuff happening with T-Man. Might want to go look at that if that's your bag or not. It just depends. There might be a beer shortage. We've talked about a lot of other shortages, so apparently there is a potential for beer shortages. And if you want to know why, go take a look. It's on marfooglenews.com. That and so much more. Click on the thumbnail for the show. Click on the show notes link in description. It'll take you right here. You can get to the rest of the story. Oh, by the way, Beyond Meat, that fake meat company, the COO got into some trouble too. So if you want to, he apparently was eating some real meat, but not in the right way. So if you want to find out that and so much more, go to marfooglenews.com and click on the thumbnail for the show.
Yeah, he Mike Tyson'd it. All right, and then thank you, and you can always use that as a search reference too. Up in the upper right-hand corner, there is a search. You can't see it right now, but if I move this over, there is a little search icon in the upper right-hand corner. You can search pretty much any word or any phrase. Let's just take submarine, right? And if you remember a story from a couple years ago and you're like, oh, remember when Marf covered blah, 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 you will most likely find it through here. These are all the shows we talked about submarine. Now, you can get very, much more detailed with this. Of course, say it grew tenfold overnight. It shows the date, and whenever you can kind of narrow it down by the date, like, oh, it was kind of a month ago. And then it will have all of the links for that show. So you can go back in time and use this. And a lot of creators use this to archive or make videos about history or anything that has happened over the last couple of years. It's a very useful thing. We do it for free. Make sure to utilize it. Share this page out. If you want to just share this with friends and family, say, hey, go get your daily news here. Just click on the newest show and it will show you the newest news. It is something that, again, is right there and available for you. Also, remember, you can sign up for email alerts. We don't send out very many emails. All that's required is an email. If you don't want to, if you don't want to use your regular email, you can just make one. Again, it's all it requires is an email. That's it. So again, pretty easy to sign up for, and it will most likely come into play later on. Again, we originally started that as in if we found out something was going on from any one of the military that work for us, and again, are in this Foogle family, then please make sure to go check that out. Go sign up for that, and you will get an email. That is kind of our SHTF system, so make sure to go over there. And then you can also use this for all sorts of different things, so make sure to check out the website. And then if you would like, you can also check out our other channel, Marfoogle News. If you haven't checked out our other channel, we're going to be doing a whole lot more with that channel as well. We are going to be doing shorts and a lot more stuff. We're also expanding to Rumble and Twitch, so make sure to follow us over there as well. All right, and then with all of the other channels that are working with us, we're starting a friends page, so you guys can all go over and check out all of the mods. There are authors, there are creators. Make sure to go support the mods. They, again, are spending a lot of their time to make it peaceful here, to let you guys know, like somebody said earlier, they drop Dutch's link. They drop everybody's links as we talk about them. It makes it a very seamless experience. So make sure to thank them for their service today. And again, thank everybody for making it. Love you guys. Be safe. Be prepared. And Dex, thank you so much. Appreciate you.
Great job, brother. Much love.
Be safe, be prepared, and Marf out. It's now time for the shoutro. It's not an outro. It's not a shout out. It's a shoutro. Terrence on the Ford Sim, Benny Bye, and the Dante It's a pure blood Selby. Call me Pete and the Sydney Gillespie. Virginia Austin and Chance Paladin. Truth Iris. Truth Iris. Zephyr at Black Soap. Mr. Apoxo. Carmen Pacheco. Sean and the custom attacks. Hold out. Just not in the